to build. Now that the build sheet and the research and development are two different statements. I don't want you to get bogged down and worry so much about the research and development end of it, although we need a budget for that initially. Because once we're in production, we're not experimenting anymore. So we want to market this car for $50,000. We feel that that's a good range. That's allowing us more than double our profits. We do want to offer the salesperson $5,000 to be able to sell a vehicle. We will not have but one showroom when we begin. So right now we don't have any overhead for that. And then we want to also allow something for for them to be able to back and get financing for that. Right now, the federal government is offering a $7,000 tax rebate, and it's not actually cash back, it's against your taxes, so it's not cash back. But if my car is going, of course, for $45,000 or $50,000, and I want to stay with $50,000, I just want to make it an easy to sell car, they're going to be able to buy the car cheaper and not deal with so much taxes. They're also giving us an incentive that they're taking away the sales tax, only on electric cars, not on hybrids. They're doing that because they don't really feel anybody's trying to develop that. I'd like to give you a little bit of history about electric cars. From 1898 until 1915, electric cars were over half of the market at that point. In 1915, what changed the industry was they came out with an electric starter, and now all of a sudden gasoline cars were acceptable. You didn't have to go out in the winter time and try to crank it over. When you were an electric car, you just got in and it drove it. So that at one point they outsold, but by 1919, Baker Electric was the last standing solo car maker. They were out of business, and they're still out of business. Later on, they made, well, in 1967, they made what was called a city car. It was a very short, stubby little car that it went 45 miles an hour and it went 60 miles range. Those two things spelled the end of the city car. People were not willing to spend a comparable to a Corvair to buy a car that just didn't put out anything. So that ended that very quickly. A few years later, in 1991, the EV2 was built by GM. In the EV2, they built 700 cars in California only, and GM was smart enough to not sell the cars. They leased the cars out because they were getting top dollar for a lease. We are not planning to lease cars out. But that offered them the ability to recall all the cars, and they crushed all the three of them. They ended their own program. It was a very successful car. I do not have the ratings on those cars, how far they went, and how much they cost, and what kind of ratings they had. I don't know any of that stuff, but they did require a charging port. So that car came to an end. And then, of course, now the Teslas come along and offer new hope. But like I say, they're a high-end, expensive car. Myself, I started out when I was in high school building electric train sets, and a very complicated electric train set would be 5 transformers and 5 engines running at the same time. And I learned how to handle electricity. By the time I was 19 years old, we moved into a over 100-year-old home in Geneva, and they didn't have electricity. So I wired that house myself. I didn't just exactly know what I was doing. We were running extension cords. Yeah. And eventually I put 4 fuse boxes in, one on every floor, because that's what I understood. And I got a lot of hands-on experience wiring that house. And then when I was 19 years old, I bought my first house. It was gutted. It needed electricity. So I wired that house, sold that house when I was 21 for double the profit. When I was 23 years old, I built a 3,900 square foot home in Batavia. And once again, I tackled 41 circuit breakers, and I really am learning now. I'm learning hands-on about electricity, what it takes. And after that, I built 26 other homes. I always did the electricity in all my own homes. I've learned a lot My son Chris, that's here with us, is far advanced than I am. I mean, my son Chris and Gregory are the ones that are really responsible for wiring this car and helping me learn. I'm a little more afraid of direct current, which these cars are, than indirect current. Right now, we're in the basement remodeling building. We have electric in every single job we do. We're offering all the options. We're offering reverse generators. We're offering surround sound or anything that the customer could possibly dream of, theater and all that. So that's a little bit of my experience with electricity, other than I did take a correspondence course in New York to learn more about what are dams and what is DC. In building an electric car today, they're building what I call a scary car. They're building 120 or 140 volts. We are 48 volts. If you put your hand on a modern day electric car or hybrid, touch it, and your feet are wet, you're dead. If you touch a 48 volt system, it's going to surprise you a little bit, but it's not going to freeze you onto the car. We want to build a car that is safe and that people can maintain themselves. The components of my car, there's several patents. My other son, Gregory, helped me get a patent pending with 17 points using the internet and an internet legal company, and we're not telling you the name of the company right now, not advertising. But in 60 days, we had our patent pending for the entire project. Some of the patents in the car are very revolutionary. One of the patents that Ford Motor Company is still trying to possibly negotiate and buy from us is a pre-inflated airbag. And if you see the car, and it's not in the picture, there's a nose cone. And that's where the driver is at. And in the nose cone, there's a pre-inflated 15-pound airbag all the way around you. So when you're in an accident, automatically you're safer than waiting for the airbag to deploy. If you're in a side T-bone, you've already got the airbag on your side. And to go one step further, the car is totally padded inside using bubble Kevlar, 2 inches thick, and it's meant to take any type of a crash. Also, when we build the car, and we will be using heavy I-beam construction in order for 3 things. One is we've got a lot of batteries here around, so we need that heavy I-beam construction to support the weight of the batteries. Then beyond that point, we have a heavy chassis. So our car actually has 3 sets of leaf springs where they normally have one on each side of the motor and of the wheel, and one in between the motor and the wheel. That's why our car has what I call a tic-tac-toe frame, and I'd like to show you that in a few minutes, to carry that extra heavy weight. So, and most important to me is the safety of the car. Our car now has a frame going in each direction. It's the first time anybody's rebuilt the entire frame of a car. So when you get T-bone, you're actually hitting the front of the car also. In theory, you're hitting 2 I-beams. Also, that the construction allows for a bumper all the way around the car of a heavy I-beam. That bumper will also have a crumple zone of a pre-inflated tire, very much like being in a bumper car. We're going to have a pre-inflated tire. It's going to be the first part of the crumple zone, and the second part of the crumple zone will be the padded interior. This car will not be giving very much in any type of a crash. This is the frame before we install the batteries. And of course the wheels aren't installed there. And this is the frame with the batteries installed in the car. So what you see here is 16 batteries, 16, and 32 batteries. Actually, there's 87 batteries in the car, but we're going to stay with 80. It's a lot of batteries. And you can see the wheels in the corners here, and the way that they're sprung inside of that frame. These are some of the cars we built before this car. going to show you quickly some of these cars. That one. This is the steel car. And you can see we've done all of our homework. I don't know if you can see that car. And you can see there's different colors. You can identify the cars. I probably should look. This is what our car looks like in the daytime right now. That's Gregory driving it. The Father's Day parade this last summer. What you see, of course, is the wraparound bumper, the heavy road cage up on top, and I don't know if I mentioned, but all of the body is built out of Luxon bulletproof glass. We will be buying that pre-cut. We won't be doing that in the shop. We will be buying all of our beams pre-cut. We won't be doing that in the shop. We'll be fabricating in the shop only.